Welcome to the Core 4 interview show. I'm Coach Brandon. I'm going to spend a little bit of time introducing you guys to one of my favorite people in the world. This young lady actually introduced me to the crypto space. She literally taught me so much about how to manage cryptocurrency, how to invest, how to do all sorts of fantastic things that really set the groundwork for how I actually use my fundamentals to run my company, run my business, and run everything that I do in the crypto space. Um, India Bradford is a young lady and she's a former basketball player. And what's interesting is I'm actually a basketball trainer. I played for Miami, I trained the WNBA, I trained the NBA, I trained college players. And so I really found it fascinating that we didn't even know that we had crossed paths through basketball when she was young. And so one of her teammates was one of my students who went on to do fantastic things. She went on to do India went on to do fantastic things. And then as I started to get to know, I said, "What kind of grades did you get?" And so she started talking about how incredibly smart she is academically, and it made sense that she was so in tune with what we're doing with cryptocurrency, what we're doing with real world opportunities. And so she decided to come and work for Core 4. And along the way, because of her Forex experience and how successful she's been in Forex and understanding that space, she was able to do some magical things with binary options. And so we're here today to present her not only as a friend, a little niece, but we're also here to present her as a coach. And you guys can get a chance to get to know Coach India. And so understand that this whole journey is about, with our channel and everything else that we're doing, about learning more about who we are and then deciding whether or not you want to be on the journey. Because people think, oh, if I have a coach here, we're never going to lose. Well, Phil Jackson lost, as a player, Michael Jordan lost, Kobe Bryant lost, LeBron James lost, the greatest coaches, Pat Riley lost. But it's not about losing. It's about making sure that you're happy with that individual as the leader that's working with you so closely on your journey, your financial journey. And even though we're not financial advisors and our goal is not to tell you what to do, our goal is to give you the choice and show you, almost like for entertainment purposes, what we're doing. And in this case, what Coach India has been doing. And then you have a decision to make. Are you going to do this on your own, or are you going to have somebody work with you? I mean, if I had an opportunity to look over, and I say this all the time, Albert Einstein's shoulder while he was taking his science test, and the teacher said, "Yeah, go ahead, take a look, learn everything you can that he's putting down there, and you put the same thing down." Now, that doesn't mean that I'm just as smart as Albert Einstein and I'll be able to do things on my own. But what does it mean? That means that if I'm getting those same grades, and then we translate that into Forex, we translate it into yield farming, we translate it into binary options. What does that mean? That means that the financial success is equivalent to the same thing that I would have gotten on that grade. But we get the twist, we get the differences. So don't get caught up in all of that. Get caught up in, here's Coach India. Let's get to know her and let's have some fun. Welcome to the stage, Coach India. How you doing, young lady?
I'm well. Thank you, Brandon. I am very humbled by that introduction for sure.
Uh,
I'm excited to get this thing started and to build with you guys. So
well,
definitely.
to build with us, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of interesting because you're on both sides of the equation.
Right.
And that's been fantastic. And I just want to tell everybody how super proud I am of you. It's not that you've come a long way. It's just that where you started from was way farther than 99.9% of the people. Your business acumen goes back to the way you applied yourself with basketball. You're a Division I scholarship athlete. So that tells you that the quality of your thinking, and I let people know this all the time. It's not just about speed. It's not just about strength. It's not just about size when it comes to being an athlete. You got to have brains. You got to be able to recognize patterns out on the court. And then by recognizing those patterns, you got to have skill sets that you've mastered so that you can put those skills with that pattern and then your processing speed. And that's what makes you so amazing. Your processing speed is so good. And so that could be the key to why you're so successful in trading, because your pattern recognition is tight.
Yeah, definitely, because you definitely have to recognize patterns in trading. So I definitely agree with that.
So now that we're talking about trading,
Mhm,
tell us a little bit about what started you on your journey to
mhm.
becoming a trader.
That's a great question. So originally, I was working in the financial service field for about 5 years, and so I was connected with some people, of course, in that realm. And they told me about forex trading back in 2016, and so I tried it out, and I thought it was so fascinating. I'm like, how are people able to make so much money in such a quick time? But what I realized is that if you don't have the proper structure and guidance, you won't be a successful trader if you don't have
Mhm.
rules set aside to keep you on a disciplined path. So I took some time off. And then in the past 2 to 3 years, I really started taking it seriously. And I understood that showing up every day, being consistent is how you basically grow your trading knowledge. So, that's what actually helped me to become a successful trader.
So, a lot of this has to do with mentoring. And,
Mhm.
in order to be a great student, you've got to learn how to teach, right?
Yes.
And in order
Hmm.
to be a great teacher, you got to learn how to be a student.
For
And,
sure.
that relationship has held true with me. Who are some of your mentors that you can point to that have kind of helped you to refine and define how you trade? Because we'll go into binary options, but the reality is that you kind of started as a forex trader, and you've used this type of skill set, and you've applied the same technical analysis to
Yeah.
every market. Isn't that correct?
Correct. Correct. And it's funny that you use the analysis of like comparing this to like basketball and being a player. So I've taken a lot of different courses. I've watched a lot of different professional traders, and so I kind of just combined the different basically knowledge that I've learned from those different instructors, and I basically came up with a strategy that I wanted to simplify. Because some instructors can be very technical, some instructors can't, they know how to trade, but they don't know how to teach. And so I found it fascinating that I was able to basically put something together that was simple enough for number one, people to understand and then be willing to actually try. Because I find that that's like a hard thing. When people see charts, they get intimidated by that, right? And so I want to say, like, if you can understand how an M pattern looks, how a W pattern looks, basically looking at the letters, then you can understand what I'm going to teach you. And so that's the basis of it.
So, and let's talk a little bit about that. So, as
Mhm,
a coach,
mhm,
what we say in core four is that you want people to be able to look over your shoulder and make a choice,
for sure.
right? So we're not financial advisors. We're not responsible for the decision that you make, whether or not you buy or you sell or whatever else. We're
Mhm.
just giving you our journey.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is that when I started trading with binary options and
Mhm,
allowing you guys, because you have
mhm.
a teammate in Coach Vaughn, and what's
Yeah.
interesting is Vaughn and I were trading, and I was like,
Mhm,
man, this is amazing. And so then I tried it on my own.
mhm.
I messed it up. I was like, I am so embarrassed. I don't want to tell him or you anything
Right.
about my experience. And I'm an experienced forex trader, right?
Yes. Right.
So there's a lot that goes into being in frequency with the market,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
that's key. And when you understand what that is, that's almost like the chemistry that you have with the universe, right? Like
Mhm.
how you are engaging and how you see it on the basketball floor. When you see the gracefulness of Michael Jordan, it's like, how did he get around those three people?
Yeah.
And because he's in tune, right?
Yeah. For
And
sure.
so you guys are in tune to the market. How do you get in tune?
So every day before trading, I like to read something that's inspirational or very influential to get my mindset right. I think that's very important. So what I realize is that trading is, yes, you need to understand the technical analysis and the skill set, but you also have to be in control of your psyche, and understanding that the trading psychology is just as important as learning how to trade. So I've seen a lot of traders know how to recognize patterns, know how to trade, know have good entries, but because they haven't mastered the trading psychology aspect,
Hmm.
they slip in, maybe lose an account or take multiple losses because they haven't mastered that part. And so that's one of the things that I really focus on. My major was actually psychology, so I'm applying those knowledges that I've learned from that along with trading. And when you put those two together, I basically was able to have some type of success with that.
That's great. I mean, so the reading and the psychology,
Mhm.
before you get started, that kind of tunes you in and gets you balanced so that you're looking objectively at the market, right?
Yes, yes,
But there is something to pattern recognition,
yes,
and you've got to actually have memorized skill sets
hmm,
in order to be successful with this.
yes,
And so when you talked about earlier, when you were like, yeah, anybody can do this, you've simplified the system.
yeah.
I agree with you. But do
Mhm.
you think that ultimately people should be trading on their own? Or do you think that if you have someone that's been doing it for 15 years and is hyper successful and is willing to allow you to trade with them,
Yeah.
which one would be better? Like, what's the better utilization of time? And the reason why I ask this is because I challenge myself to say, all right, if I want to be an NBA coach, even at my age, like,
Yeah.
what are the sacrifices that I'm willing to make to get there?
Hmm.
Or would I rather just have somebody coach that team that's already an amazing coach and I just be the owner of the team? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what are your thoughts behind it? Does somebody really want to go out and be the subject matter expert or work at that for years? Or do they want to take you, who's a subject matter expert and a great coach, and just work with you forever? What do you do?
Like I always say, you can't be what you don't see, right? So if you're trying to be a successful trader, you need to be around successful traders until you learn the process yourself. And even then, you still want to kind of stay connected to a community, because when you have those days where it's challenging, or you may need some instruction and figure out how do I fix this or how do I correct this, being surrounded by people and people that have been doing this for a while, they can kind of show you what you need to change because they've been through the same thing. So it's kind of like accelerating your learning process when you're with someone that has already been through what you're going through or what you will go through.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, so that's great. So one of the things, as people will learn as they become students of yours,
Hmm.
or four, um, what is it about like some of the technical? So I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
If you look at harmonics in
Hmm.
Forex, like
Yeah.
that's an amazing indicator to me. It may not
Hmm.
be to y'all experts, but to me,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I'm looking
No,
at
I love the harmonic patterns. Yeah.
and then
Hmm.
combine that with, because there's really no leading indicator.
Yeah.
Everything is a lagging indicator and that kind of stuff. So how do you focus on your instincts? Like, what are some of the things that you memorized, like right off the bat? I heard you talk about M's and W's.
Yeah.
So some people might call it a mountain, some people call it a
Hmm.
valley, or whatever they might. So, but what are, like, just give me two of your top indicators.
I would say the 50 moving average,
Okay.
and basically just looking at regular price action on the chart. So what I've noticed is that you will see the M and W pattern on the chart time after time after time after time again at key levels on the chart.
Mm,
And so when you see these patterns at key levels, you can almost see what already happened in the past is an indication that it could potentially happen in the future. And so when you have that insight, you're almost just kind of timing it and waiting for it to project the same type of pattern it did in the past. And
okay.
so the fact that people know what an M looks like and people know what a W looks like, you just have to show them where and when to look for it. And that's literally as simple as it is.
It's funny because you trade on the 30-second time, correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's people out there that are on the 5 minute, that are on the 15 minute, and all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like, does it really make a difference? Would your methods be
Hmm.
just as successful on a 5 second, on a
Hmm.
1 minute, on a 30 second, on a 5 minute? Does it really make a difference?
That's a great question. So actually when I was starting to trade forex, I started on the 15-minute chart, and I was looking at M and W patterns on the 15-minute chart. So what made me inclined to actually transition that technique to the binary options, I'm like, okay, I'm still seeing these same patterns, it's just on the lower time frame. So how can we still execute that where we can make money in a faster, setting? So I tested it out, and I started to get some good closing ratios with that. And I was like, okay, this is good. Now let's see if we can apply this to, other people who've never traded before. And when they were able to grasp the concept so quickly, it was astonishing. And they were able to make 2.5 to 5% in a day. I said, this is something that people need to know, and I would love to share.
Well, one of the things, India, is that, from a core four perspective,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't really want you guys going for more than 2%, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, in order to get what you want out of binary options in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the money, you got
Mm-hmm.
to lose,
Yep.
right? And
100%.
so you build on that losing, hoping to win, and so you're playing those averages. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and that could be dangerous, right? So that's where your expertise comes in
For
to
sure.
say, hey, we either are down 10%, we're not going to go anymore today, the
Yep.
market's not moving right.
Yep.
So the community really has to understand that, you're going to have losing days, you're going to have winning days. You just want to have more wins than losses,
For sure.
right? And I have found, and tell me if you're in agreement with this,
Mm-hmm.
that when you get your 2%, if you come back later and get you 2 more%, that's better than trying to get 4%.
Absolutely, in one session. Yep. I totally agree with that. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because another key component is trade management. So one thing that I've realized that a lot of new traders will get caught up in is they'll get on a winning streak, and
Mhm.
they'll get ambitious, and they'll start to risk more than what they should be risking. And then it turns the other way, and now they've lost the entire account because now they want to get it back so quickly. Versus taking one step at a time, slow and steady wins the race, get you 2.5% a day. That's an amazing return
Yeah.
compared to what the traditional financials, aspects are giving us. So if you do 2.5% a day, I mean, you're looking at 45 to 60 days, you're getting 100% on your money, give or take, you have your losing days in between.
That's right.
So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And we talked about that. Like, I tell people in Core 4, and of course, you know all this because you work for Core 4 too, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to pay for the course. The course is $3,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that engages with you for a year.
Yes.
And a lot of people need to understand that, it's about the long-term commitment to
Mm-hmm.
this, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to, all right, I'll try this for a month and then I'm out. I'll try
Yeah.
this for a month and then I'm out.
Yeah.
That right there is not going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And so what I want to tell everybody is that, this is a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to have an understanding and build a relationship with, whether
Yeah.
it's Coach Vaughn or you, it's Coach
Mm-hmm.
India, whether it's me, whether it's, Chris Pulver, who's doing options by itself,
Yeah.
whoever we have, as a coach, you want to get to know them and
Mm-hmm.
build that relationship. Because when you turn on the computer in the morning and they get on with you in the morning and in the afternoon or evening, they got to be excited to see you. And they got to know that you're going to bring energy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to bring energy like Coach Vaughn, but
I
try.
have my own type of, yeah.
You can try. But
uh,
but the reality is that you really want to put yourself in a position as a student. I want you to talk about this because you were a player,
mm-hmm.
and I don't want to say it. And me as a coach, as a team coach, and all the rest of, but as a player, you wanted to be with a certain coach,
Yes, for
win,
sure.
lose, or draw,
Mm-hmm.
right? Tell me about what it would be like to be a student of yours.
That's a great question. So to be a student of mine, to understand that, number one, I'm going to walk you through every step. I'm going to make sure that you understand exactly what I'm doing. The second thing is you'll always have a positive environment, great encouragement, and you'll have a community of other people that are going to be experiencing the same thing. And understand that coaching is not always the good, the shiny, the beautiful things, right? So on those days that you have losing days, understand that it's going to happen, but guess what? We're in this together.
Yep.
And I want you to understand that we're going to grow together.
That's great. That's great. And when you talk about growing together, I want people to really understand this. In binary options, what I want you guys doing is, obviously, as students, you'll be watching Coach India on your cell phone, and then on your laptop or your computer, you'll have your trade screen open. And so when Coach India says that she's taking a particular trade for educational entertainment purposes, then you can make a decision and make a choice on whether or not you want to take that trade,
Right.
because we're not responsible for the success of that particular trade or not. We're just responsible for making sure you understand how a trade works, how
Mhm.
you can take it, how you could win, how you could lose, so
Yes.
that you can make the best decisions for yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I use the Albert Einstein,
Yeah.
example. So, what I want to ask you is, how long do you think it would take for someone, if they were to engage with you, to make money? How many days would it take? How many months would it take? How many sessions to make money?
So I guess I would want to have a little bit more, specifics on that question, because we can make money the first session. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
is that
Uh,
right? You can make money. So you're telling
I
me,
say that very confidently, not cocky, right? So,
but it's true.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
true. Like
hmm
when I trade with you, when I
yeah,
trade with Vaughn and stuff like that. I mean, we're making money.
yeah,
There's times when it might not be exactly what we want. We'd love to go 100%, 100% of the time.
right, of
But
course.
the reality is, it's almost like, dang, I lost today,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
I lost a few trades.
Hmm.
So getting through that mindset is so complicated,
Yes, it is.
because for me, when I was telling you guys, I didn't want to go through, when I was losing all of that money that day, I didn't
Yeah,
want to go through the process of trying to win it back. It was my money that was losing. I was draining my account.
yeah.
So really talk about, um, how you're able to, for your account, not get caught up in mindset.
Ooh, that's a great question. So it took me a while to get here, and to be honest with you, I'm still growing. It's never like a point where you just met this plateau where it's like, okay, I'm the trading psychologist,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But I think it comes down. What helped me personally is, number one, having a trading journal, and not just tracking your wins and losses, but tracking your emotional responses to those wins and losses. Did I stick to my strategy? Did I apply my trade management in this trade? Why did I make this trade if it was a bad trade?
hmm,
And so when you recognize your emotional triggers for that trade, then you can now get down to the problem of it. So was it greed? Was it revenge trading? Was it fear? And so I read this book called Emotion Free Trading, and it's an amazing book. I recommend that for any trader. And so there's specific chapters in that book that basically hone in on whatever that issue is that you might have as a trader. And trading is a great reflection of your relationship with money too. So it's like a mirror, right? And so when I look at, let's say for instance, today I might have been greedy. Like I hit my 2.5%, but I said, hey, I probably can get 7.5 to 10% the way the market is looking, right? And so there's a specific chapter in there called greed. And so I will read that over and over again until my mind has understood that you have to stop mentally approaching the chart this way. It's just like anything else. With basketball, when I didn't have a left hand, I had to practice my left hand every single day. So you have to train your mind the same way you would train in anything else.
convincing yourself, and this is interesting because I deal with this with my players, I deal with this with my kids.
Hmm.
So understanding the value of training,
Hmm.
so that you're prepared for the moment. I teach people all the time that what you're looking for is a perfect drill,
Hmm.
right? The drill itself isn't perfect, but the way you approach the drill, you're going to be a skilled professional. If it's
Yeah.
shooting the ball and shooting at the top of your jump, whatever it is that you're doing, how you dribble the basketball, you
Right.
want to perfect it, because in your mind, when you're in a game, you want to try, or not try, but you want to actually execute that perfect way of handling the basketball, going into the shot, and
Yeah.
there's nothing the defense can do to stop you.
Yep.
And
100.
so if you train that way,
Hmm.
then when you recognize that pattern, you're going to approach that pattern with perfect intention.
Absolutely.
Do you
Absolutely.
do that in trading? Is that a transferable, like psychological whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. So, of course, with training with basketball, you repeat certain drills and things of that nature, so it becomes muscle memory,
Hmm.
right? And so, with trading, if you're constantly, putting that information into your mind, the psyche part of your mindset, it becomes muscle memory. So when you get a loss, it's you're kind of numbing your emotion, and you're replacing that with logic.
Exactly.
So when you replace that with logic, it's like, okay, cool. This is where I messed up. Let me move on to my next trade versus, dang, I just lost some money. Let me try to make that back. So you're completely irrational, and you're not looking at the technical side of it versus the emotional side. Anytime you make a decision with emotions, 99.9% of the time, it's the wrong decision to make.
So you're spot on. So one of the things that I look at when I think about trading is how you can put together risk. So let's use Forex, for example.
Hmm.
So in Forex, if I know that for every $1 that I'm willing to lose, that I'm going to actually say win $3,
Hmm.
right? If I take 10 trades, that means that if I win all of them, I made $30.
Hmm.
But if I win only six of them, then I made $18, which would have meant that I would have
Hmm.
lost $6, which also would have
Hmm.
meant that if, let's say, I only won four of them, I'm
Hmm.
going to get $12, but then I would lose $8. So I would still end up with a net four in that
Hmm.
case.
Correct.
Positive.
Correct.
Is it that way in binary options too, where you can say, this is how much I have to win, this is what we would end up getting? Is it that way, or is it a little different?
Slightly different, but also kind of the same. The main thing is, look, you're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days, right?
Okay.
But with this strategy, you'll have more good days than bad days. And so when you have those good days, you have to preserve your profits. And so I like to do a scale of 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%. So if you lose one, you go to 2%. If you lose another one, 3% and 4%. And so if you've reached that 4%, you know that you lost 10% of your account,
Good
and you
job
should
for the day.
stop trading for the day. Yep.
Yep.
Versus continue trying to trade, and you're emotional and you're trying to win it all back, and then you end up losing the entire account.
Revenge trading never works,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
Hmm.
so it's powerful. All I want people to do is get to know India,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So I was talking to this gentleman, and he said, Brandon, I was watching you on Anthony DeLoach's show, on Coach Rashid's show, on Lambeau's show, on um, Banker Gerald's show, on Terrence Pound's show. Like, he named all of these shows, Quentin Bradford's show,
Yeah.
and Jackson Armstrong's show. So he watched all of these things, and then he watched the Core Four first episode. And he calls me afterwards, or he sends an email. He says, I'm ready.
Mm.
And so I had no idea who this gentleman was.
Yeah.
But what I realized when I said to him, I said, I got this that you're ready. He said, yeah, I know you. I've watched you enough.
Mm.
And so it really helped me to understand the power of what we're doing here in
Yeah.
terms of these interviews, so
Absolutely.
people can see you. So I want you to be able to come back on the show. Everybody can see you on the Core 4 show on Sundays.
Hmm.
But this is where we get to know you, where
Yeah.
you tell us, you know what, I lost today. I won today.
Yes.
What
Yes.
I'm averaging this week and why I'm averaging that. Maybe we'll do a session where you can trade my account with me live,
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
But the idea is that people get to know Coach India.
Yeah.
And so I know Coach India. I know
Yeah.
your family. I've appreciated the relationship that we've had
Yeah.
and that we're going to have. The fact
Yeah.
that you actually work for the company
Yeah.
is a bonus for our company.
Absolutely.
So it's fascinating. And when you asked me, you said, Coach, put me in the game. I want to coach myself. I was happy to do that. And
Yeah.
I think that the world will also be very happy that we made that decision for you, India.
Absolutely. And I definitely appreciate the opportunity, Brandon, and building a relationship with you and Carrie and Sonia has been an amazing journey. And I'm excited about what's, in store for us in the future. So
Yeah,
yeah, I honestly, at the end of the day, Brandon, my whole goal is just to be relatable and transparent. I think that's the most important thing when it comes to building relationships with anybody. Is just being real and honest about your process. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But if you can relate to me and I can understand what you're saying, I think we can build a great relationship. So that's my goal at the end of the day is to build real relationships so that they can last long term.
real talk. There's a lot of nuggets in here, and I want people to understand we have something called the treasure hunt coming out where I'll be asking questions eventually, and you'll be able to get points that you can redeem for pens, coffee mugs, uh, even deeper discounts on some of the products and services that we offer at Core 4 because it's about engagement. It's
Yeah.
about people actually learning, and people should be watching every video that we do
Mhm.
because there's so much to learn in this space. We
Yeah.
have some exciting guests that's coming on the Core 4 show. We have some amazing interviews. We're going to be reviewing platforms and other projects and using the Core 4 coefficient. We'll be using the Core 4 true return, and we're also going to be using the Core 4 quadrant because we need to learn how to use due diligence in everything that we do.
For sure.
So I just want to thank you, young lady. You've been a fantastic little sister. You've been a fantastic friend.
Yeah.
And you're a fantastic coach. And Core 4 is lucky to have you.
Thank you, and I'm honored to be here. And let's make it happen.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All
Bye.
right.